Hello, my name is Pastor Erin Swinson-Reinhold. I serve as the Assistant to the Bishop for Candidacy and Mobility in Metro DC Synod.
Hi, my name is Pastor Lamar Bailey, and I serve as the Director for Evangelical Mission and the Assistant to the Bishop. And today we'd like to share with you the outcomes of our innovation project that was funded by the generosity of the Foundations of Christian Leadership through Duke Divinity. As Synod leaders, we're called to equip and empower healthy leaders and communities and to support vibrant congregations. We believe that we are called to model faithful accompaniment as demonstrated by Jesus Christ. The question that kept coming up for us, especially in our first year ministry in the Synod office, was how can we as Synod staff empower and nurture vibrant congregations and encourage and model faithful accompaniment? Stated more clearly, how can we equip our leaders in congregations in transition to listen deeply to the Spirit and discern what God is calling them to, and boldly participate in building God's kingdom in the world today? How can we help congregations connect their why to their what?
Our collective work as Synod staff is focused on following the Spirit's movement, so it leads us into newness and disruption wherever it leads. It's a holy vocation that is exhausting and liberating at the same time. This posture is a dramatic change from the culture of the Synod and the larger church, which seeks comfort and resists change. Our call to listen deeply to the Spirit in this new posture inevitably means that our mere presence is automatically a source of disruption. As leaders in the Synod, we discerned a path that would equip our congregations and leaders for mission and growth. We are called to boldly proclaim and clarify needs, vision, and participate in God's mission. When ministry sites gain clarity about mission and vision, they are free to focus their energy and resources on God's mission. Through an intentional discernment process, we believe that congregations grow, transform lives, and bring people into deeper relationship with Jesus through listening to God, listening in community, and listening to their neighbors.
Over the last year, we worked with 3 congregations and their rostered and lay leaders, empowering and equipping them to listen deeply and engage the process of change faithfully and boldly. All 3 congregations sought to clarify their why and connect it with their what, so they could clarify next step in their lives together.
Here at Christ, the congregation had, for the past few years before my arrival, been undergoing its own discernment process through the group that the congregation had put together to do with long-range planning. So they had the long-range planning team that had guided the congregation through another discernment process. And so when I got this invitation from the Synod to participate in intentional discernment program, I thought, well, isn't the congregation already good with that? But after praying about it overnight, I thought that even though the congregation may have been way ahead in terms of discernment through the long-range planning team, there may be aspects of discernment that the congregation may not have considered. And so maybe the timing for this was right. And so through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, I said yes. And I am glad that I did, because what I learned through this process is something that, even though the congregation was very intentional about its own discernment program, there were many aspects of discernment that had not been considered by the congregation. And so while it was true that we were ahead in terms of thinking about the future of the congregation, it was also true that we were not very well prepared. And as if the Holy Spirit was into this, which he was, the long-range planning strategy that the congregation had embarked on involved a partnership with an organization which was impacted by the COVID and had to back away from the arrangement, leaving Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church in a position to regroup and begin the process all over again. And then guess what? Because we now have to begin thinking afresh, having had our plans disrupted, the tools that I have gained from the intentional discernment program are now being brought to bear on the new direction that we'll be taking as a congregation.
We watch this process and help them connect their love for Jesus Christ with their love for their community and each other. The process we offered was one of accompaniment, steeped in listening to God, the ministry context, and each other. It resisted the urge to make changes quickly and out of a desire to ease our own discomfort and anxiety, and encourage the holy discomfort that arises when we try to really hear what things need to be released in order to make space for what is to come.
I have really appreciated being a part of this discernment process. One thing that I really appreciated are the resources. I loved how as a group they were introduced and shared, and we had conversation and were able to practice them and practice leading them, and then we could share them with the congregation. Here at Good Sam, we used those resources on prayer during the Lenten season. We introduced a variety of prayer practices. Our council read the discernment book together and began to use those discernment practices as we are visioning for the future. And we are going to be using the Mission Possible resource to dream about what God might do with our existing food pantry. So I'm really grateful for this grant, and I found the resource is incredibly effective, especially Mission Possible is the most effective, awesome, fun, fast, and furious resource for mission strategy. And so I'm really excited to be able to continue to pass that on to others.
As Synod staff, we are often asked to assess systems quickly and identify paths that effectively lead towards efficiency and productivity. Yet this holy experiment helped us see the power of prayer and the gift in waiting, watching, and allowing the Spirit to move on the Spirit's timeline instead of moving the system on our timeline. As we continue to grow in our own spiritual journeys, we seek this holy space with more intentionality and hope to help others experience it as holy discomfort instead of something to resist or even reject. We witnessed through this holy experiment how our leaders and congregations practiced listening to God and others before moving forward and created space for faithful, bold responses to God's holy invitations.
I want to share with you one great thing that's come out of being a part of this process that's been so helpful. Back at seminary, I was introduced to something called open space technology. It's a way to lead that's less structured. And I've always loved it and wanted to make it a part of how I lead in ministry, but never really knew how to do it. Thanks to the conversations and the learning around discernment, I've been able to work with my colleague, Pastor Kirsten, and we've kind of found a way to make this work in a way that's been really fun. Instead of organizing planning teams or inviting people to serve on a team for a year, we've started organizing open space meetings after worship, open to anybody in the congregation. So we've had worship planning meetings, a faith formation planning meeting, and we're going to do this with other ministry areas as well. And so it's really made planning and organizing so much easier and fun and enjoyable. So thank you, Duke Grant Process.
Ultimately, this project was a discipleship opportunity for those engaged. It invited pastors and congregational leaders to explore their relationship with God and each other, deepening their spiritual life and faith practices to boldly proclaim their love for Jesus Christ. From this place of hopeful proclamation, they were able to see, name, and claim the gifts and resources that God provides in surprising ways.
Well, thank you, Pastor Aaron. Thank you, Pastor Lamar. Thank you, Bishop Ortiz. Thank you, Metro DC Synod. And most importantly, thank you, Duke, for the grant that has made all this possible. Peace.